Today the inspos are going to test out a few different ways to etch a knife. We're going to use basically a technique that was inspired by Chris Tanner from Perma 101. I'm going to etch a GI Tanto from Cold Steel that I've heavily used, a Shanghai Shadow from Cold Steel, which is basically their kunai, and then a BK14. I'm going to use the Jasco Premium Paint and Epoxy Remover, as he uses in Perma 101, this guy right here, to remove the coating, and then I'm going to use a cold blue, the perma blue, and a bleach method to kind of do different designs. I'm kind of thinking I'm going to try and do like a tiger stripe design on this guy's blade, and then we're going to do a complete immersion in these two. This one I'm going to immerse in a bath of chlorine bleach with the blade face down, which will hopefully give some like horizontal stripes in this direction and a weird kind of etch, and it's completely random, so I'm interested to see how that'll look. And then this guy I'm going to immerse in bleach with the tip facing straight down, which should give longer vertical stripes. And I'm going to use the paint and epoxy remover first, let that sit, and then I'll show you the next step later. After shaking the Jasco thoroughly, I'm just going to spray it heavily over all the blades, flip them over with a cheap pair of needle nose pliers, and then spray the other side, and I'm going to let it sit for about 15 minutes. I'm going to check it every 5 to see how it's going, and then we'll go on from there. So now all the blades are completely covered in the Jasco. I probably used way more than I really needed to, but I'm a noob, so let's just see how this works. And I'm going to let it sit for about 10-15 minutes and then check on it. So it's been about 20 minutes, and just to show how aggressive this stuff is, this is the spoon I used about 10 minutes ago. It's gone. What I'm looking at now is, it looks like the coating of both the cold steels are not moving at all. And it looks like the BK14 though is flaking off real nice. I think that's pretty much done. Looks like there's a little bit more around the handle, which is a little stronger. Also, a good idea to wear goggles or glasses or something to protect your eyes, because for all I know, when I'm doing this kind of thing, a little fleck could fly up and hit me right in the eye, and that would not be good. Yeah, I'm done with that. I'm just going to take the rest off with some paper. So basically what you're going to do now is make sure this is all washed off really well. Just drown it basically, and then if you want you can use some distilled white vinegar. Maybe it's not necessary, and then scrub it off really good, dry it, and then we'll move on to the next stage. I'm not sure if this is ever going to cut through into this. I'm just going to let it sit. Just keep letting it. Actually, let's flip it over and see what it looks like on the back side. That one started first. It's got a few extra minutes of treatment. Oh, it is coming off now. Okay, so this one will come off soon. I'll just clean this guy up, and then hopefully in that time frame these guys might actually be done. It's been almost an hour and I just finished cleaning up the coating on the BK14. As you can see, it looks pretty nice now. I didn't polish it or anything, it's just straight without its coating. You can see that the blade is very much smooth, but the handle has like little pits and everything. I think that's why it was so much harder to remove the grip material. There's just a lot more for the coating to grab onto. There's still a little bit left I'll need to get with some sandpaper, but this I just was able to get off with this spoon and a small little cloth, like a terry cloth. But now that almost an hour's passed, I'm going to give this guy a go and see if I can remove the coating off this. I can finally start seeing some peeling up around the edges. So I think this is finally where it might actually be good enough for me to start get off with a little more work. It definitely is a lot harder to get off than the BK series. And even then, it doesn't really seem like it wants to come off that much. You gotta work it off. So this is what it looks like after about 10 minutes scrubbing each one. As you can see, the Shanghai Shadow, to me, looks a lot shinier. I'm not sure if it has to do with how I treated it, or if it's just a different kind of steel, because I bought this thing a couple years later. But there's a lot more shine there. when compared to the GI Tanto. I think I got most of the coating off, so I'm going to clean these off, get them all uncorrosive, and then we'll see if I can polish them up a little bit. I may have to take some sandpaper or maybe even apply another coating of Jasco to this. I'll let you know once I see it, once it's washed off. Here are the blades with all the coating removed. The Shanghai shadow wasn't too bad. I was able to get most of it off just with some like steel wool and just the spoon I was showing you earlier. It came off pretty easy. This GI Tanto was, even after I got all the coating removed, it was still had very like a, I don't even know, like a cure almost. It was still like the gray color and it was pretty smooth and I couldn't get anything to stick to it in terms of like the bluing compound. So I pretty much used a Dremel tool and some sandpaper to get it all down. So now all the blades are pretty much stripped clear. They're not polished by any means because I'm going to be doing an etching compound on them all anyway. I don't feel like I need to do a full scale high quality polish before I even start doing that. So they're just kind of stripped and ready to go. And I'll show you the different ways that I'm going to attempt to strip these and you can see if they fail or not firsthand. This guy was by far the easiest. This coating just fell off. Your next step is to find some containers that you can actually put the chlorine in when you start doing the etching. I'm using this long container to hold my Shanghai shadow in the vertical position, like that. And then I'm going to use this more flat container to hold the BK14 in this position. And the big thing is when you do this, there's a good possibility there's going to be quite a bit of chlorine gas released, which is of course not good for you. And so do this outside or someplace with good ventilation. So I'm going to start with the Shanghai shadow and I'm going to suspend it in the bleach in the vertical position, so blade down, handle up. And I'm going to put down some, you really don't have to be even, but just some perma blue. So I'm outside for this and it's only about 42 degrees out. So this might take a little while, so I'm just going to dip it in there and I'm probably going to let it sit for 45 minutes to an hour because I want kind of a deep etch. Okay. You can pretty much see it's already starting to rust. This is what it looks like after half an hour. I'm not sure how deep I want this etch to go, but I think I'm going to let it sit for a little while longer. This is what it looks like after 45 minutes. I think that looks deep enough. So I'm going to try and get rid of most of the rust and see if I can see what the etching is going to look like. So this is my test one of the Shanghai shadow. This was after about 45 minutes in pretty cold winter conditions. You can kind of see the blade tip to handle direction etchings in there, but they're not as deep as I would like really. I might try and fix this up later, but I want to see how it will look after I blue it. This is just kind of a test knife. I don't really care about it. So I'm going to sand this thing down so it's more of a polish down here where I'm not actually going to do the etching, and then I'm going to blue it. I polished this blade up to more or less where I want it to be. Polished about 3000. I didn't do super thorough job because I don't really care because it's all going to be covered and I wanted to have that antique look anyway. But now that it's all done, I washed it off in soap and water, dried it, then used the rubbing alcohol again to make sure there's no kind of residue. And now we're going to apply another nice thick coat of the gun blue. One thing I want to notice is after polishing how much quicker this material turned the blue color than like when we first put it on before we did the bleaching treatment. I think in the future I might have to try to do the full cover, like the full polish, and then apply it because I think that'll allow it to the bluing to take better, and maybe that'll result in a deeper, stronger etch. So I'm going to wipe off the excess bluing now. It's been about 30 seconds to a minute. So I don't want to get too deep. So I applied a little bit more blue to the edges of the handle because I didn't think I had enough on there. And I just wiped it all off, and you can still see the etching, but it's definitely not that pronounced. Definitely want to go a little deeper next time, I think. But I'm going to try and polish this up a little bit to kind of shine it. Maybe that'll make it so that it's a little more visible. But if nothing else, it's well protected, it's completely blued, and it is pretty smooth up here. So I don't think I'll have any sort of issues with rust. This is the blade with about 3000 grit sandpaper gone over it. It still has the bluing, but you can definitely see the etching a lot better. I think it looks really good. I definitely think I need it to be deeper the next time I try this though. So this is the completed Shanghai shadow. Put the scales back on and did a light cleaning and oiling of the blade. Now that's really neat, I just did it for the first time. and you can see that it's not nearly as deep of an etching as I think I would like, but it does add a lot of character, and at least now the metal is treated without having that crappy paint over the top of it. Like I said, I don't really care about this knife all that much, but I did learn some things about this technique that I want to apply to knives I actually do care about. So it looks okay, and I just hope that what I learned during this will improve my other knives.